want to talk to you about a new PPE competitive exchange. This is a new way for you to get vetted national PPE suppliers competing for your PPE requests within minutes. So what's the problem? Well, COVID-19 has increased the demand dramatically for PPE supplies. People have had to go outside of their current trusted suppliers and deal with people they may not know or trust or even have never heard of due to the internet. We've heard reports of rip-offs and fraud. There's just no trust out there. So how do you fix this? Well, over the last many months, since early 2020, a number of companies, states, and federal agencies came together and started working this issue. And what they came up with was really kind of a simple approach to this. And they wanted a solution that would emulate kind of the Uber app, right? That links, people looking for rides and drivers very quickly using digital technology. They wanted suppliers to compete for every single request for quote, just like in the Uber model, right? They wanted competitive quotes. They wanted a national database. They wanted everybody to be vetted by that database, so it could create a safer, trusted framework for PPE sourcing via the All Hazards Consortium, which you'll hear about in just a minute. So here's how it works. This leverages an Uber-like model. It doesn't get involved in the transaction. It just connects you and your request to vetted suppliers that are already trained on how to reply back to you within minutes. So as the graphic shows, you on the left submit your RFQ, request for quotation. 6,500 vendors who are all vetted, get that information, reply back to you, and you get a response back within minutes of a competitive quote. These are quotes ready to go. The vendors are trained, so only reply if you have what the person's looking for, number one. Number two, if it's in the US and you have to provide the US address where it's shipping from. Three, and if it's ready to ship right now. It's only working with companies that are in the US, so it's vetted, it's trust, and it's very, very fast. So what are the benefits? The big one is speed. This is very fast, number one, and what that means is it reduces your time and energy you put into it. It reduces your risk, right? All the participants are vetted. You're buying direct, so you're negotiating directly with the supplier. And the environment is managed by the All Hazards Consortium, which is a 15-year-old nonprofit run by states and industry since 2005. It has lots of experience at doing this in a very trusted, legal, audited way. Trust. It helps you build trust in the process between both buyers and sellers. The sellers and the suppliers are just as leery as you, the buyer. And the last one is really it's cost effective. This will reduce the amount of time from 50 to 80% of the time you spend finding and getting competitive bids. So how does this show measurable results for you and reduce your risk? Well, very simply, today, there's a lot of labor involved in finding new suppliers. It's very tricky. It creates risks, and this can take hours or days. What the exchange does, it takes far less time. It reduces 2/3 of the work effort for you, right? It just takes minutes for you to submit a request, and so many times minutes you get your first replies back that are competitive quotes. And it lowers your risk because the service does the vetting. Everybody, to be part of this, has to go through data validation and a phone call, validate phone numbers and emails and contacts for you. So you don't have to do that.
It was back when Joe Picciano was Assistant Director of Homeland Security for New Jersey. And New Jersey had established an infrastructure advisory committee, which we commonly call the IAC. And I was one of the first people that were put on the council at that time, and I represented the food industry for the state of New Jersey. And that was right after 9/11 when Don DeFrancesco was president. And they had called and asked if I would want to represent the food sector, and I said, sure, why not? And I was on it pretty much until the day I retired. So it was back then when Joe P. and I met, because we had the IAC and I was sector chair then. And Joe said, we have this AHC. It's a nonprofit organization. I think you might have some interest in that. So what do you think? So I said, sure. So I came down to a board meeting. They had it in Delaware, somewhere on the Turnpike, I believe. Yeah. And I sat there as a guest and got introduced to the AHC format there. And I found it quite interesting. And then shortly right after that, not too long, maybe a few years right after that, that's when hurricane or tropical storm Sandy had hit. So then I became more involved. So I think at that time, they were really in the infancy of putting a lot of pieces together and how the AHC could help the private and public sector. I was more interested in how I can help, being a representative of the food industry, and how we can tie those both pieces together. Because there's always that matter of trust between government and the private sector. So sure. I think I looked at the AHC then as, oh, this is interesting. This could be a perfect piece. So we can break down that barrier, and having transparency in both sides, both public and private, can trust the center and see how we can connect the dots. I think the biggest piece is when we started, we're able to get an idea of how logistically products flow. And with the AHC, there was connecting the dots there with regard to the states and the Department of Transportation. And that whole piece, I think, was very, very important. And they became a sounding board and a good point of information finding, where you can feel comfortable calling the AHC and say, okay, what about this, this, and this? And I think one of them was generators. I mean, we spoke about this in the past. Where can I go for a source? Where can I find it? By picking up the phone and saying, hey, I need generators, or I need fuel distribution, or I need trucks moving this, and I think the biggest piece, and I don't want to even pass up on this, is the fact that they were very, very instrumental when it came to the public utility piece. When you had power outages, the organization had a stronghold with the electric sector, and they became a great source of information with regard to helping people.